Has colonization truly shaped the world as we know it today, or did it merely disrupt the natural progression of societies? This question is not as simple as it might seem. Colonization, the process by which one nation asserts control over another territory, has had far-reaching and deep-seated effects on the world, altering societies, economies, and landscapes. The concept of colonization is as old as civilization itself. From the ancient Greeks establishing colonies around the Mediterranean, to the far-reaching empires of the Romans and Mongols, to the Age of Exploration, where European powers colonized vast swathes of Africa, Asia, the Americas, and the Pacific, the desire to expand and control has been a driving force in human history. But why do nations colonize? The motivations are manifold: resources, strategic advantages, the spread of religion, or simply the pursuit of power and prestige. Regardless of the reasons, the impact of colonization is undeniably profound. It has redrawn maps, reshaped cultures, and rewritten histories. Yet the effects of colonization are not one-sided. While it has often led to exploitation and conflict, it has also resulted in the exchange of ideas, technologies, and goods. Moreover, it has been a catalyst for the emergence of new nations, identities, and political systems. In this video, we will embark on a chronological journey through the history of colonization. We'll explore the dawn of colonization, its spread across the globe, the consequences it wrought, and the benefits it brought. We'll look at the end of colonization, and finally, we'll attempt to weigh in on the final verdict. Was colonization a force for good or ill? To fully grasp the effects of colonization, we must journey back in time to when the first colonies were established. So, buckle up as we embark on this historical journey, tracing the footprints of empires and the echoes of their impact on our world today. As we venture back to the 15th century, we find ourselves at the dawn of European colonization, a time when the world map was not as we know it today, a time when the thirst for exploration and expansion was unquenchable. The early stages of colonization were marked by what is now known as the Age of Discovery. It was a period when European powers began to explore, trade, and ultimately establish dominion over vast territories across the globe. This was a time of unprecedented exploration, ignited by a blend of curiosity, economic ambition, and religious fervor. Among the leading figures of this age were the maritime powers of Spain and Portugal. These nations, driven by the desire for wealth and influence, embarked on daring voyages into uncharted waters. Spain, under the direction of the Catholic monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella, sponsored Christopher Columbus's journey across the Atlantic in 1492. A journey that would lead to the discovery of the New World. Portugal, on the other hand, led by the vision of Prince Henry the Navigator, was more interested in exploring the African coast and finding a sea route to Asia. The Portuguese explorers, like Vasco da Gama, would eventually succeed in their mission, opening up a direct sea route to the rich spice markets of India and the East Indies. But these explorations were not just about finding new trade routes or lands rich in gold and spices. They were also about spreading Christianity. The Church played a significant role in the colonization process. The Pope, through documents like the Papal Bulls, granted the right to conquer and convert the inhabitants of newly discovered lands. With the discovery of new lands, the stage was set for an era of conquest and expansion. A world that was once vast and uncharted was rapidly shrinking, and the European powers were ready to stake their claims. This was the dawn of colonization, a time of exploration and discovery, but also a prelude to centuries of conflict and change. From the 16th to the 18th century, colonization spread like wildfire across the globe. During this time, the world saw a flurry of activity as countries like England, France, and Holland ventured far beyond their borders in search of new lands. They were driven by a cocktail of curiosity, ambition, and the desire for wealth and power. England, for instance, was a key player in this era of exploration and expansion. They sailed the high seas, reaching the shores of North America and establishing colonies that would later become the United States. But their reach didn't stop there. They moved further, colonizing parts of Africa, India, and the Caribbean, establishing a global empire where, as it was famously said, the sun never set. France, not to be outdone, also embarked on its own colonial journey. They established colonies in North America, creating what is now known as Canada. Their reach extended to Africa, where they set up colonies in regions like West Africa and Madagascar. Additionally, they made their mark in Asia, particularly in Indochina, laying the foundation for modern Vietnam, Cambodia, and Laos. Holland, though smaller in size, was no less ambitious. They established the Dutch East India Company, becoming a major force in the spice trade. Their influence spread across Asia, with colonies in places like modern-day Indonesia, Sri Lanka, and Malaysia. The spread of colonization during this period was not just about land acquisition. It was about the spread of culture, language, religion, and economic systems. English, French, and Dutch became global languages, Christianity spread to new corners of the world, and capitalism took root in these new colonies. But as these nations expanded their territories, they also imposed their rule and ways of life on the indigenous people of these lands. This resulted in a clash of cultures, leading to conflict, oppression, and in many cases, the displacement and decimation of local populations. The world map was rapidly changing, but at what cost? The impact of colonization was far-reaching, affecting every facet of life in the colonized regions. As we delve into the consequences of colonization, we cannot overlook the profound negative effects it had on the colonized regions. One such consequence was the erasure of local cultures. Colonizers often imposed their own languages, traditions, and beliefs onto the indigenous populations, leading to a loss of cultural identity and heritage. Native languages were marginalized or even completely erased, and indigenous traditions were often suppressed or replaced with those of the colonizers. In addition to cultural erasure, economic exploitation was a significant consequence of colonization. Colonizers often sought to extract as much wealth as possible from the lands they colonized. They exploited the natural resources, leaving the land barren and the people impoverished. They set up systems that favored their own economies at the expense of the local ones. The wealth generated from these colonies often flowed only one way, back to the colonizer's homeland. The societal disruption caused by colonization was another significant consequence. Traditional social structures were dismantled, and power dynamics were drastically altered. Colonizers often established a system where they held the power, leading to the marginalization and oppression of the indigenous populations. This has resulted in long-lasting socio-political strife and conflict in many post-colonial societies, which we still witness today. Moreover, colonization brought about a massive demographic shift. Diseases brought by the colonizers wiped out a significant portion of the indigenous populations. At the same time, the influx of settlers led to a dramatic increase in the colonizers' population, further disrupting the balance of the societies. The consequences of colonization were not limited to the period of colonization itself. Its effects reverberated through the centuries, shaping the socio-political and economic landscapes of the modern world. The imprints of colonization can still be seen in the cultural, economic, and societal aspects of many nations today. Colonization was not just about territorial expansion, it was a force that forever altered the course of history. Despite its dark side, colonization did bring about certain advancements and developments. Let's delve into some of the positive effects of colonization, starting with technological progress. With colonization came the spread of new technologies and innovations. The wheel, for instance, was introduced to numerous societies through colonization. Other technological advancements included the introduction of modern medicine and education systems, which, in many cases, led to an increase in the average lifespan and literacy rates, respectively. Additionally, colonization led to the development of infrastructure. Roads, railways, ports, and cities were built to facilitate the movement of goods and people. These developments often formed the backbone of the modern infrastructure in many post-colonial nations. This infrastructure has played a crucial role in enabling these nations to participate in the global economy and to develop their own industries. Colonization also resulted in a significant amount of cultural exchange. This exchange was not always voluntary or fair, but it did lead to a blending of traditions, languages, and ideas. Today, the world is a global village, and much of this is due to the cultural exchange that occurred during the colonial period. Many of the foods we eat, the clothes we wear, and the music we listen to are the result of this exchange. However, it's important to remember that these advancements did not come without a cost. The colonized societies often had their own technologies, infrastructures, and cultures that were disrupted or even destroyed by the colonizers. Furthermore, these benefits primarily served the interests of the colonizers and were often implemented at the expense of the local population. In conclusion, while there were certain benefits to colonization, such as technological progress, infrastructure development, and cultural exchange, one cannot ignore the heavy toll it took on the colonized societies. These advancements came at a great cost, often involving exploitation, oppression, and cultural erasure. These benefits, however, must be weighed against the heavy price that was paid. The sun finally set on the age of colonization in the 20th century, a period marked by the rise of nationalism and the desire for self-governance. It saw the once subjugated nations begin to wrestle back control. This era was characterized by a wave of decolonization movements, a global push for independence that echoed across continents. It was a time of upheaval, of revolution, and ultimately, liberation. From the bustling streets of India to the sweeping plains of Africa, the cries for independence were loud and clear. This was not an easy process, and many nations had to fight tooth and nail for their freedom. Decolonization was more than just political independence. It was about reclaiming cultural identity, restoring dignity, and rewriting histories that had long been penned by foreign hands. It was about nations finally taking their rightful place on the global stage, no longer as colonies, but as independent states. Yet as these newly independent nations emerged from the shadows of their colonial past, they bore with them the indelible marks of colonization. The borders drawn by colonial powers, often with little regard for cultural or ethnic realities, have continued to fuel conflicts. The systems of governance, education, and economy established during the colonial era have shaped the trajectories of these nations, for better or worse. Moreover, the cultural and social transformations brought about by colonization have had lasting effects. Languages, religions, and ways of life were forever altered. While some of these changes led to progress, others have been sources of ongoing tension and discord. As we reflect on this era, it becomes clear that the end of colonization was not a definitive closure, but a transition. The legacy of colonization is not confined to history books or old colonial buildings. It is alive and well, influencing our present and shaping our future. The legacy of colonization is a complex tapestry of progress and pain woven into the fabric of our world. It is a reminder of our shared history, a testament to our resilience, and a call to learn from our past as we navigate the road ahead. So, has colonization truly shaped our world or simply disrupted it? As we've journeyed together through the dawn, spread, consequences, benefits, and end of colonization, it's clear that the issue is far from black and white. It's a vibrant tapestry of grays, interwoven with threads of both progress and pain. In the dawn of colonization, we saw empires rise, their influence spreading across the globe. The world map was redrawn as lands were claimed and cultures clashed. People, ideas, and goods began to move on an unprecedented scale, shaping the global society we know today. Yet, as with any sunrise, shadows were cast. The spread of colonization brought about the displacement of indigenous populations, the decimation of cultures, and the introduction of new diseases. Its consequences were far-reaching and often devastating, leaving scars that are still visible today. However, the narrative of colonization is not solely one of exploitation and suffering. It also brought about the exchange of knowledge, technology, and ideas. New political systems were introduced, economic trade expanded, and technological advancements accelerated. As such, the benefits of colonization are also part of this complex equation. The end of colonization saw the birth of many new nations, each with their own unique blend of indigenous and colonial culture. These nations have navigated their own paths, grappling with the legacy of their colonial past while forging their future. So where does this leave us? The final verdict on colonization is a complex one. It's a tale of human ambition, of exploration and exploitation, of progress and pain. It's a narrative that continues to shape our world, influencing our politics, our cultures, and our understanding of each other. In essence, the story of colonization is a mirror, reflecting the best and worst aspects of humanity. It reminds us of our capacity for both creation and destruction, for unity and division, for enlightenment and ignorance. The question of colonization is not just about history, it's about understanding the world we live in today.